Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to episode 1 of Connected. My name is Coobs, and I'm here with Drew, Cutthroat McNasty, and Eric. Today for the first episode, we're going to basically talk about some big stuff that's happened in the last week in League of Legends. Mainly the end of the SoloMid Series, uh, the IEM Cologne, some cool statistics, and a little bit about the Westrice Voyboy situation. I guess we'll jump right in, and Drew, kick us off with the SoloMid Series.
All right, guys. This weekend we had some really interesting stuff going on. It was the final weekend of the SoloMid Series. For the previous 6 weeks, 8 teams had been duking it out for a chance to be in this final series. The overall prize pool for the weekend was $12,000, and 4 teams ended up qualifying. Those were TSM, ranked number one, Curse Gaming, number two, X Quantix, ranked number three, and Fear Gaming was at number four. The thing that I want to talk about first is the first day and the first match, which was between Team Solo Mid and Curse Gaming. Coming into this weekend, I was really excited about watching this first match because I felt like it was going to be a preview of what was going to happen later on in the weekend. Both of those teams, as I said, were ranked number one and two, respectively. So this is how it started out, guys. Game number one, Team Solo Mid comes in strong. They win the match 20-4. Odd One was 6-0 with Nocturne, and Chaos was 5-0-8 with Ezreal. Dyrus was 4-1-7 with Rumble, and Reginald was 4-1-9 with Malphite. That's how strong this team was to start the day, guys. Reginald was playing Malphite. I don't think I've ever seen him take him mid before. So game two starts, and once again, TSM's just going at it strong. They win 24-13 and get Curse to surrender. This is where it all started to change. TSM went on to lose the next 3 games and consequently the match. All the games this weekend were a best of 5 series. So Curse just slaughtered them in game 3. Game 4 was really close, and game 5 went to Curse as well. TSM went on to lose after winning their first two games. They went on to lose their next 9 in a row. In fact, the only match that they won was on the third day because Fear had to forfeit. So they ended up placing in fourth place, even though a lot of people expected them to finish first. The other really interesting thing from this weekend was the winning team, which was Curse Gaming. Now, with TSM playing as poorly as they were, it was kind of a given that they were going to take the win, but they did it in spectacular style. Let me look at my notes real quick. Let's see. The first game, Voyboy took Elise top, and he went 11-1. So I think that really shows where Curse is at right now. As we're gonna talk about, Voyboy is a new addition to Curse, and he has been replacing Westrice, who was recently benched, and Koobs is going to go a little more into that.
Yeah, so the big thing that we can all talk about is basically in November, Voyboy went ahead and went on to Cursed, and they benched Westrice. Now, Westrice originally joined the team because Pull Belter was too young to join the gaming house, and Westrice, I guess, just didn't perform to Curse's standards. And what ended up happening is they took Voyboy, and Voyboy played in the Solo Mid Series, helped them win the entire thing against, I believe it was Quantic in the finals, and it's just working for them. Voyboy brings a lot of experience to the table. He's the youngest man in all of professional esports, but he brings a lot of experience from other teams. CLG is a big one for him, and I think Voyboy's a good fit there. Westrice, it didn't work for him. I think for him the next step would be to maybe find a team where he does blend in a little more and his performances might be a little better, and maybe just see some of that Westrice Cali once in a while. So I think Curse has a good future in Season 3 with Voyboy. And some of the other teams that do have a good future are on the European side, as we saw this weekend at IEM 5, because there's a team that won that I don't think anyone really thought about, Eric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're called SK Telecom. It's essentially a team built around Reaper, formerly of Azubu Blaze. IEM Cologne was very predictable and very surprising both at the same time. It was very predictable in that Fnatic ended up going into the finals. What was unpredictable is the fact that CLG only won 1 game during the group stage and didn't even make it past their first day. Beyond that, SK Telecom really stole the show on Game 3. After going 2-0 against Meet Your Makers, which is one of the top teams in Euro esports, they ended up going 2-1 against Fnatic in a very, very tight set. The whole last set ended up coming down to who ended up getting Zyra plus somebody else. But SK Telecom is essentially a team that's been built around Reaper. As far as the other players, they've come up a little bit in the Zubu series, but beyond that, I hadn't heard of any of them before. And I'd heard of Reaper from Blaze, but beyond that, it was just a total mystery. And it was actually their first competitive event as a full team, and they ended up coming in and taking away the entire prize. Beyond that,
I think one
I
thing that
think,
we should touch on, I don't know if any of you caught it, but the Froggen and Nivea saga that unfolded. So why don't you tell the viewers about that?
well, in CLG's set, they pretty much were running around the plan that they were going to be working with Froggen and working off his ability to own the middle lane. And he did that well. He played very well as Lux. However, in the second and third game, Anivia ended up not even getting banned. And that's Froggen's signature champion right there. After interviewing CLG EU later on in the day, they were not even aware that Anivia had gotten through the ban phase, so they didn't just naturally assume that they weren't going to be able to pick that up for Froggen. And I think that that's very interesting considering how we tend to perceive bans and picks these days. We tend to just generally assume that, if Froggen's in the game, Anivia is not going to get picked. But that's not always the case.
And I think what we're gonna get at then, Lol King has a great statistic tracker for champions, ban rates, win percentages, all that stuff. And one thing that all of us have seen in solo queue is those champions that get banned a lot. They don't really win as much as you'd think. Isn't that right, Drew?
That's correct. Just to go back to the Anivia situation real quick, I was really bummed that Froggen didn't get a chance to play with her because I was hoping that she would make a rebirth into the competitive scene. Moving along, back to the bans, I think an interesting thing about the professional scene and the solo queue scene is when you're in a professional situation like with Froggen, everybody knows who he is and what he plays. So someone like Anivia will get banned out. And let's take a look here at the statistics. Anivia is only banned normally in less than 1% of games. But because he's so good at her, she's banned all the time when he's playing. Now, solo queue is much different because when you're going into solo queue, you have no idea who you're playing against until that load screen starts and the picks have already been out. Of the top 5 banned characters, we have Shen, Diana, Blitzcrank, Malphite, and Rengar. All of those characters are banned more than 50% of every game that's played in League of Legends. Shen being number 1 with 70% ban rate. Now let's look at what their win percentages are. You would figure that because they're being banned so much, that would equate to victories when they are picked. That's not the case. Of those 5 characters that I listed, Blitzcrank is the only one with a win percentage higher than 50%, and it's only at 50.04%. Shen, who's banned in 70% of games, only wins 46% of his games. And to me, that's just incredible.
I,
What are your thoughts on that, guys?
I think, it's one of those things where, when it's different than the Froggen case because Froggen is amazing at Anivia. So if she's not banned, you expect him to take her. Now in solo queue, there's players who maybe don't know how to play these champions quite well at the level they're at. If Shen's available and someone takes him and they don't know how to play him, it's not going to automatically equate to a win because they don't know the limits of that champion. And yeah, you know what? Shen's available, but is it really worth picking him if you don't know how to play him? It doesn't equate to a good team strategy, especially because if you're not playing a champion you're comfortable with, it's not going to be easy to win the game. And I'm sure you can agree with that, Eric.
hmm I would actually say that people have a tendency to pick the flavors of the month or the flavors of the week, as it were. And Shen has been in that category for a very long time, despite the fact that, he's gotten nerfs to his global ult and all sorts of things like that. People will instinctively ban him, which is why he's yielding a 70% ban rate. I mean, I can speak to that on a personal level in that I will almost always ban Alistair, Mumu, and Blitzcrank. And I don't even think that Alistair has a very high win rate percentage as well. And I don't think he's even banned anymore after all the nerfs that he's been getting. But I just remember, weeks and weeks of Alistair in the jungle coming in and just destroying lanes. I think that people have a tendency to get these things stuck in their head, and they don't quite understand that, even though Shen is a very powerful character and changes the entire face of the competitive scene, he's just not the kind of champion that you can carry with. And that's really what I think the solo queue, especially at the elo that people are more commonly playing at, they need to be able to carry their team, not necessarily lend that once every 4 minutes ult to be able to try to change the game.
I agree, and on the other side of that, we've seen champions whose win rates are extremely high, but have almost no popularity or no ban rate. And I mean, I think we've definitely seen Rumble's up there for sure. I know Fiddlesticks and Riven are up there. What are those stats exactly, Drew, for win rate, ban rate on those champions?
Okay, well, the really interesting thing is, like you said, let's look at. So we've evaluated bans and how it's not equating to wins. So let's look at who is winning and how popular they actually are. So if we look at the win percentages right now, the two most the two winningest champions are Talon and Rumble. Talon wins 56.5% of his games and Rumble wins 56.4% of his games. That's well above the majority of champions in the League of Legends. However, let's look at their popularity. Talon is banned in 16% of his games, and I think Koobs is going to elaborate onto why Talon is a little bit of a special case right now with the new meta and the new items and changes season 3. But Rumble is only picked in 5% of games in League of Legends, yet he's the second most winning champion in the game. It doesn't make sense to me.
It's one of those things where, in the Summer Rumble, his flamethrower was doing more damage than it should have, and that's when he was really popular. But now, even
Yep.
after they fixed it, he's still a strong champion. I mean, we've seen Wicked play it. He played it at IPL 5 in that amazing game against World Elite. And he's still a viable competitive champion. We just don't see him as much from the pros. Therefore, it's the chain effect. The players at the lower elos aren't going to do it. They're not going to want to experiment, and that's the case with him. Now, the case with Talon's interesting, and me and Eric were touching on it before we got started. Uh, this was the League of Cleavers last week and the week before. I mean, we saw Talon, Pantheon mid, things we haven't seen in ages. I mean, it's not that they were not good before, but they weren't as viable until the Black Cleaver stack came. All of a sudden, you saw a Talon with 2 or 3 Black Cleavers shredding through a team at level 9, and it's just unbeatable. And I mean, on a personal level, I've seen some of my friends who are in the 1200s skyrocket 300 elo just playing Talon. I've seen players in the 1800s play Pantheon and get to 2100 in a span of a week. So that's my
Mhm.
personal
That's incredible.
experience. It's
Yeah.
it's not normal, and I'm sure Eric, you've had some experiences as well.
Yeah. Well, the role of AD caster has long been my favorite. I mean, all throughout season one, when I first started playing, the first character that I really liked to start playing was Pantheon, and I played him, I think, more than any other champion in season two. Maybe not as much as like Siobhan or something like that, but I think right out of the gate, the new Black Cleaver was kind of ridiculous, and I think and everybody can agree with that, including Riot, which is why they nerfed a couple of different aspects of it. But if you look on Looking, there's about a 7-day period where Black Cleaver was played in 25% of all games. That means that 1/4 of every game had to have had a Black Cleaver in that.
Wow.
Before that, it was below 5%. So obviously, it got a huge upgrade, and it just even with the armor penetration nerf, characters like Talon and characters like Pantheon, AD casters like that with a full armor penetration room page were basically hitting the AP casters for true damage on all of their skills. Combine that with a 30% armor shred, which was a non-unique passive, and armor was almost a non-issue. Even stacking armor was just completely ridiculous when you have characters like Jarvan who has an inherent armor shred, then getting another 30% armor shred. Going on to AoE effects, I mean, it was in just teams full of AD casters, 5 ADs. That was about a week of the solo queue.
Yeah, it came a little too late without the hot fix, but it's good to see that they fixed it, and hopefully, we can get a few more changes to maybe see even less Black Cleaver, because I'm still seeing people take 2. So it's a little bit of a grind. But one thing we do want to do, guys, as the show progresses each week, we were going to want to take questions from you guys. So if you guys want to comment on anything or stuff like that, you can just message us on YouTube. You can email us, onecastgaming@gmail. Leave a question in the comments or in the Reddit thread, and we'll do our best to answer them before we put the show up. Basically, that's it from us for the first week. Do you guys have any shout outs, anything? Where can we follow you guys?
You can follow me on the OneCast Gaming website. My name is Cutthroat McNasty. You can also add me in game. You can find the spelling on the website, and I'd be happy to play with you guys. We could talk some statistics. I have a weekly blog that I'm doing for the site where I'm covering funny videos from around the league and kind of giving tips as well at the same time. I also will have articles covering the competitive league scene.
And Eric, yourself?
hmm Well, I'm known in game as DJ Chernobyl. I've got a couple different ways that you can reach me. I'm on thenuclearfamily.blog.com. I'm a writer for OneCast Gaming. I've got a YouTube channel, The Nuclear Family. You can follow me on Twitter at The Nuclear Fam, F-A-M. And in addition to that, I'd be happy to play with anybody. I'm hoping we get our gold team going real quick so we can start the League of Iceborne Gauntlet this week. That's going to be new.
The next flavor of the month. And for myself, guys,
Yes.
I don't write articles, but these two write great articles every week for the website. So if you guys want to read Drew's written review of SoloMid or Eric's written review of IEM, visit the website www.onecastgaming.com. So until next week, I'm Koobs. He's Drew. He's Eric. See you next time. Take it easy.